Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my lecture series. It's how to make reading fun and educational for children. Today's a little bit different. Instead of focusing on different books and modeling language development, we are going to be looking at these books from the eye and perspective as learning letters. Because a book that could be really good for language development isn't necessarily the best book for teaching letter awareness. To me, I separate them as two different things. So those of you who haven't had a chance to get to know me, my name is Liz Patton. I'm the owner of Speech Language Pathologist at Healthy Speech Solutions. It's an online speech therapy practice designed to help children and adults in speech therapy in North Carolina and Florida. So what can reading teach? First off, you look at a really large letter. That's an A. A makes an ah sound. A is an apple. We have a t sound for the letter T. T for number 2, or T for Tom. So it's learning that you look at a letter and it's realizing that that letter has meaning to it. For example, we have an A, we have a T. That's a T. Turn it around. That's an at. So learning that when you manipulate letters, letters form meanings, they form words, and then that leads to reading comprehension. So it's introducing that concept that letters mean something, and it's teaching the child what a book is and what do words and letters and a word mean to help people understand what's going on. So we have different examples here. This was actually a gift that was given to me by an occupational therapist. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. My daughter absolutely loved playing with this book. So from a language development standpoint, this is an awesome book because it introduces reading, introduces the book in a fashion where it's not obvious to the child. Because if you take a look at it, you have different textures. So this is definitely an occupational therapy present for me, right? So it has different textures, very silky. That's very rough. That there is very rough, and the pages are really crinkly, and they make a crinkly sound, and they're just fun to smash up. So you're giving this book to the child, and the child is so excited. They get to play with it. They get to drool all over, and you can just throw in the wash and wash it. From a language standpoint, you could say, show me the F, show me the H, show me the G. That's kind of cool. If you have a child who's very, very easily distractible, it could be a little overwhelming seeing this many large letters on a single page, or maybe having less letters on the page could be a little bit easier for children to be a little more interactive in terms of learning the different letters. So like, well, you're right, that's an F. An F makes, what sound does an F make? But they may be looking at all the other letters that they may not respond and say. They may be looking at an E or an H instead. So sometimes simplicity is better. But from a language development standpoint and manipulating this book, absolutely love this book, highly recommend this book. My daughter is obsessed with it. This one, this is the Busy Alphabet book. So we're taking a look at it. Clearly this book is designed for letter awareness. But to you, is the E obvious? Is the F obvious? I mean, look, we have 3 different letters, or I'm sorry, 3 different colors on the letter F. We have 2 different colors on the letter E. That can be a little confusing for a child who's trying to learn what a letter means. Like an A here, it's a lot clearer than if there's 3 different colors that was on the A when the child is trying to figure out what a letter is. From a language development standpoint, this book is awesome because it talks about different type of occupations that people can do. So like here it's talking about an engineer. What does an engineer do? Builds new things. So it's a great way to incorporate language development or being able to describe what people do occupation-wise. So language development, it's an awesome book, but for learning letters, it's a little busy for my taste. Here is the really busy book, but what I like about it is interactive from a language development standpoint. So if we're taking a look at this and we're like, okay, how is this for letter awareness? C, D. Really? You couldn't get any bigger than that? It's awfully small. You have a child, he sees a tongue coming out to lick a duck. You have the roughness from the cougar that I am rubbing because it's a rough textured tongue. So I'm rubbing it, okay? And look, you have a caterpillar, you have a blue jay, you have all these different things here. Is the child really going to be paying attention to the C and the D? Probably not. So to me, the letter awareness aspect of it is a lost cause, but language development wise, there's a lot you can talk about for this. One thing that is kind of cool about this book is that there's a flap here. So will you help me open it? Say open flap, open flap. Thank you for opening it. And now we have all of these different things that we get to look at, okay? So you have the duck, you know, we have the shimmery dragonflies, we have the cougar. So there's so much to look at we could talk about from a language development standpoint. Is the child really going to pay attention to the tiny C here and the tiny D here to say, what letter is that? What sound does a C make? A K or a C? What does C start with? Cougar or cat? Chances are they're going to be distracted by everything else than learning about what letters are. This one, the basic alphabet book. I haven't actually physically read Eric Carlisle's ABC book, so I'm not vouching for it. But what I do know is that I like the simplicity of the cover. I liked how even though there are different colors, it's still pretty obvious that that's actually a C. You know, there's not so many external factors there that's distracting, which is a concept that I really like about it. So the basic book, the way that I look at a book is that I wanted a book to be very, very, very simple. I want to be able to know that, I want to be able to look at it and I want to be able to know that, say, we have, that's an S, okay? And I want to be able to look, that's an A and that's a T. And I want to be able to look at, I want to go S-A-T, sat. Okay, and I want to be able to know that the meaning here is that makes a S sound, makes an A sound for A, makes a T sound for T. And I want to be able to blend them together to say, okay, that means set. Okay, and this concept, this book, this page actually shows that. So let me get rid of this S because we don't need that anymore. So let's take a look at that. So here we have the D, which is a different color, which is what I really like about this made up page that I created, because the D is different color, it matches the D up here. You have the O and you have the G that's a different color from the D, which makes the D really jump out. There's not a lot on the page here because you have a picture, you have the word dog, and then you have the letter that stands out. So I really like that concept. Okay, but imagine if you have all these different pages and you have super simplicity things that you can learn from. Like you just have a page that just says bat, and the letter B is a different color. Is that going to pay more attention to a child? What do you think? You know, what about if you have letters or Scrabble letters that you can take out and you can spell with them? So you could say bat, bat. And then you could say, you know what, let's just take out the B. We don't need the B. Let's get rid of the B. We don't need the B anymore, right? Goodbye, B. We don't need the B anymore. Go away, B. We don't need that. Let's make this into a cat. Let's make it into a cat. How much fun would that be if we spelled the word cat? So you could be reading these simplistic books. Very, very simplistic. And you could have Scrabble letters. You can have magnetic letters that you have in the refrigerator. And you can play around with them when you're teaching these different letters with the book. That's so simple. Maybe you can get the child to actually spell D, spell copy dog. And it's a lot easier to do that when you have something that's really, really simplistic. But then that's when it's really good if you have magnetic letters here that you can play with, because you've got to also keep the child engaged. But the focus here isn't about word development, isn't about language development, it's about letter awareness. And it's understanding that a C is a K or a C sound, and A is for an A, and then a T makes a T sound. And it put it together as K, at. So it's a good way to try to learn that. It's learning that. You have at. How about you have at written 3 times? And you put just a different letter in front of it. So you can say cat, bat, sat. And it's learning about these 3 different words that you have. And the only thing that changes is the letter in the beginning. And that's a lot easier to teach that concept when you're using really easy books as a reference point and maybe playing with magnetic letters along the way. Kind of cool. Definitely a speech therapist way to go. So we don't need these anymore. Just get rid of them. Go away, letters. And we don't need this one either. So go away. So let's take a look at it. So what we have here that I wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming to my lecture. I hope this has answered a lot of questions about what some examples are of the difference between what a really good language book is and the difference between what a really good letter awareness book is. The key, though, is that the busier the book, probably more for language. The simpler the book with very obvious letters, maybe having a word written underneath it, maybe having that D in the words jump out if that's the D you're targeting on the page. That's implicit, and that's going to be a lot easier for the child to tune into. That's a letter. So I hope you have, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and you're welcome to reach out to me at healthyspeechsolutions.com or at liz@healthyspeechsolutions.com. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.